Welcome to the Hold the Maneuver podcast. I'm Mark.
And I'm Mike. We're two hardworking dads trying to immerse ourselves into Star Wars and fit it into our very busy lives.
If this is your first time listening and or watching, in this sometimes short-form Star Wars podcast, we'll share our thoughts on different topics from a galaxy far, far away. So join us as we prepare to execute the Holdo Maneuver. All right.
You gotta go to Arizona, don't you? He'll be back. Don't worry.
So what did Charlie Brown say when he heard Karga was a high magistrate?
I didn't know Charlie Brown existed in Star Wars.
Oh, he does. He's a Jedi.
What did he say?
Good grief.
Yes. So with that, we welcome Mr. Craig McFarland to the Hold the Maneuver this week. Welcome, sir.
Yeah, thanks for having me. I'm looking forward to talking a little bit of Star Wars. I don't get a chance as much to talk Star Wars, so I appreciate the offer.
We're here every week.
You're always around, right?
Yep.
Okay, good.
Yeah, Craig hosts or is a co-host on two different podcasts. Well, one of them being Peanut Butter and Biscuits, and the other being Beyond the Mouse. So that's kind of within that could cover Star Wars on that.
Absolutely. Yeah. We've talked a little bit of Star Wars on Beyond the Mouse, which is my Disney show, but not nearly enough, I don't think. My co-hosts, they tend to enjoy it enough, but not willing to geek out on it, if that makes sense. So
fire them. They're gone.
Exactly.
But yeah, kind of in continuing, my dog Sylvie is enjoying wanting to be a part of the discussion too.
We can't hear her. Don't worry.
Okay, cool. Yeah, but so going with our theme kind of that we've been doing, like with our guests of kind of Ted Lasso podcasters talking about Star Wars. That was another reason why I wanted to have you on. We've had Coach Beard's book club on. We had Kenny on. So thank you for coming on as well.
Yep.
Well, I do want to say, in advance that Kenny and the ladies from Coach Beard's book club are considerably smarter than I am. So I'm glad that you're bringing me on. I'm glad that you're bringing me on after them. And then that way, there's no way I can beat them. So now I can go for, that lower bar. That's my goal for tonight.
Now, me having never seen Ted Lasso yet, it's on the docket.
Yeah, what?
I didn't know it existed for a long time. And then like Mark's like, you got to watch it. And now my wife's like, we got to watch it. So it's coming. It's coming. Okay. Explain to me Peanut Butter and Biscuits, the name.
All right. So it comes from basically the first couple of episodes of Ted Lasso. Ted makes a offhand remark that he likes to leave an open jar of peanut butter around, and just that way he can just put his fingers in it and take a bite of peanut butter whenever he wants. And that pays off later because you see in his apartment that he has an open jar of peanut butter. And then Biscuits, he gives biscuits or, basically like shortbread to his boss every single morning. And so Peanut Butter and Biscuits.
There we go.
Which I don't know if I showed you, Mike, but that was also inspiration for the ice cream that came out recently too, was the shortbread kind of.
Yeah, biscuit.
No, you sent me the picture of the ice cream and I was like, you got ice cream. Okay.
Okay. But you will enjoy it once you get into it eventually. But yeah, so the kind of the first, also I feel like every time we mentioned Kenny, I also have to apologize to Aspen again for that episode, for how many times we mentioned jizz whaling within the Star Wars universe. So apologies again, Aspen.
We also called her the Messina to Kenny Loggins, so I think that's more offensive than referring to her as Messina.
Yeah, but to segue from that,
anyway.
The news that we're going to talk about this week was the Star Wars series Skeleton Crew that we already knew Jude Law was starring in. Recently, like wrapped production in the past few months, but like recently I've been learning more of the directors that are going to be working on it. So it looked like it has enlisted the Green Knight director David Lowery, and also I believe like last week we also found out that the Daniels, who directed Swiss Army Man as well as the Turn Down for What music video, and also the recently Best Picture winner, Everything Everywhere All at Once, are also directing an episode of that. So I just, with the Daniels especially, I love the trajectory. Like I know it wasn't like they did the Turn Down for What music video and then they did an Oscar Best Picture winning movie, but it's just kind of funny to like the trajectory of like this movie with Paul Dano riding a farting corpse of Harry Potter to like this multiverse Best Picture Oscar winning movie. So it's just kind of like a cool trajectory. And I'm assuming between like David Lowery as director, I know like the visuals for Green Knight were like really well shot and everything for that. And then
didn't see it, so I don't know.
Just look up some of the cinematography for it. But
when I looked up who he was, his picture scared me, so I clicked back pretty fast. He was like all bug-eyed staring at the camera.
Oh man, looking like well, the pirate from this episode we'll be talking about. But then yeah, and then I just assume the visuals for the episode that the Daniels do for Skeleton Crew will be pretty interesting as well, and they'll figure out cool ways of shooting stuff for that. What are your guys' thoughts outside of, I guess, what I said, if you wanted to add anything to that at all?
We're going to get rocks that just talk to each other in Star Wars, I think. We're going to get a multiverse. We'll have hot dog fingers maybe make an appearance in Skeleton Crew. This is all references to Everything Everywhere All at Once, in case anybody hasn't seen that film. I'm not actually going crazy. It is a really good film. And no, I just think it's always fun because these directors, on a lot of these series, these are all kind of built, right? Like Filoni and Favreau are going to give them kind of the direction, and then they do get to put a little bit of their own spin on it. So I enjoy seeing directors come into a series like that. One of my favorite directors and favorite podcasters, just favorite people, Kevin Smith. It's always fun, like when he comes into different shows, because he's such a dialogue rich and dialogue heavy guy that typically they tend to give him those types of episodes. So if a showrunner is doing a good job with kind of assigning these directors, you'll get to see their whatever they're really great at kind of shine, much like you were saying, Mark. So like interesting visuals with the Daniels is going to be something that you get to see in this. And I think, it's just more Star Wars on our Disney Plus screens is not a bad thing at all. And so I'm really excited for getting to see this and check out a brand new story.
Definitely.
My take was, hey, we got it. Unlike the other stuff that's been canceled. So
that's true.
Yeah. Yes, yeah, especially since we know it's already been filmed and it's like already like in post-production now. So
yeah.
They don't have a date for it yet, as I know of, because I believe Ahsoka we're supposed to get like later this year, and then I believe that's supposed to come after it. So we'll see. But speaking of Ahsoka, this week we had the Mandalorian season 3 episode 5, and people may understand why I say speaking of Ahsoka in a second. We're going to recap that 5th episode, which is chapter 21, The Pirate, which was directed by Peter Ramsey, who's going to be directing many episodes of Ahsoka. He was also one of the directors on Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse. So that was one reason I was in particular really excited for this episode going into it, just because of how much I love Into the Spider-Verse. So I figured with him coming in to do the live action shoot for this, that it would be shot visually really well, and I would enjoy a lot of what I was seeing there for it, which, yes, I did. And so this episode, this episode premiered yesterday on the 29th of March. So the brief synopsis for it was: the people of Navarro need protection from rampant pirate attacks. So kind of going into this, what were some of your initial thoughts of this episode, guys? So go round robin, starting with Craig and then Mike and then myself.
Yeah, I really enjoyed, first of all, I'd say, like, I know you guys have been breaking down season 3, but season 3 of The Mandalorian so far for me, I'm really enjoying it. I know I completely understand. I think, Mike, you were bringing up the point that, like, it seems like they're really trying to give one storyline and then immediately cut that off, or then immediately like move on to something else. But I think that, like, what I enjoy about season 3 is that we are getting more of the lore of Mandalore, and we're getting kind of more of this like backstory that, and I'm not someone that really dug deep into the animated series. I need to go back and watch things like Clone Wars. I've seen a little bit of Clone Wars. I really haven't seen Rebels at all, and I understand that a lot of what's going on now really connects to what's going on or what had happened in Rebels. But I really enjoyed not only the visuals of this. I love that we're kind of getting to see Mandalorians in battle. That's something that I don't think that we've gotten enough of necessarily in this show. And then I'm a big Bo-Katan fan, so it's cool to see kind of her be able to have an opportunity again here too. So overall, I really enjoyed this episode quite a bit. I thought it's moving the series in an interesting direction. Now, I don't know the answer to this. I maybe should, but how many episodes is season 3? Do we know that?
I want to say here, I'm going to double check really quick because I don't want to give the wrong answer and then have it told us in the comments later. So while I'm doing that, Mike, you give your initial thoughts.
I echo that this is I enjoyed this episode because last week, as I mentioned, something was amiss. I just felt down, like a down episode for some reason, despite I love a good flashback. I love good to tell the backstory, but something was just amiss. I don't know what it is. It just started to feel Lost-esque, where like they're doing all this stuff, but you don't know where they have no real direction. Listless is, I believe, what I said. But this one, they this is where we're going. And I was like, oh, that's awesome. That whole sequence where he found the deserted, blown up ship, just floating deadly in space. I was like, that is awesome. That was like my favorite part of the episode. Just I don't know why. Maybe because I like Titanic too much. I don't know. But I also am
8 episodes.
8 episodes. So we have 3 left. No, I'm digging the Bo-Katan thing, as I mentioned in our notes. Is she the Jesus of the Mandalorian all of a sudden? Like,
well, and that's what I was trying to think of, like, because my son got the Darksaber when we were down in Galaxy's Edge, and so I kind of like watched a history of the Darksaber. And Bo-Katan's been in this kind of a position before, right? My understanding, and something in either Clone Wars or whatever. So again, that's
my understanding.
Yeah, I say I'm out of the loop there, but I don't know. It's interesting that she's back in that position again.
Yeah. I've been enjoying it a lot as well too. I said this last week, but I enjoyed that on top of like Pedro Pascal already having like the series regular status and like top billing. I like that in this season they also added Kitty Sackhoff there as like a series regular too, as being like second build on the show. Because I liked there being kind of that kind of dichotomy between the both of them, where like he's like this like almost like super steadfast to essentially this Mandalorian cult, like this sect of it.
Oh, he's all in. He's the
yeah. I thought there for like a little bit maybe that like he was like kind of wavering away from it a bit, but it kind of went the other way, where it almost like now like Bo's kind of been like sucked into it a little bit more. So I'm curious to see like where that goes, especially from stuff that we'll get into in a little bit. But yeah, I've liked what they've been doing on the show with like the history of the Darksaber. Yeah, like you guys are saying, they did do a like there's specifically in the Clone Wars, there's like a full episode kind of giving like the full like kind of backstory of the Darksaber, and that's kind of done in the same way. If you've seen like the first Deathly Hallows movie, where they give like the backstory of the 3 brothers and the Deathly Hallows, and that they kind of do like a backstory of the Elder One and like the original.
I don't remember that.
Jedi and like the Jedi / Mandalore that like created it, because he was both a Jedi and a Mandalorian. And then like how it got passed down to like the Paz Vizsla, who is has been kind of a character this season, like more and more in the Clone Wars. Jon Favreau did the voice of one of his ancestors in that, who was pre-Vizsla. That's kind of like a joke to being like pre-visualization, pre-viz. So like he's technically lineage wise like part of that family that should get that. So that's why like in Book of Boba Fett he was trying to get it back from Din there. But then yeah, there's the whole thing with Sabine and Rebels training with it, and then she gave it to Bo. So that's why like the way that Bo got it before wasn't like the whole like rules of like where she had it like again kind of like the Deathly Hallows I guess didn't win the Elder Wand in combat, so it wasn't like really hers to use. So it's kind of similar I guess in that way to some of the Harry Potter lore stuff. Just something I didn't really even realize until I was explaining it just now.
One of those moments. No, it's just so interesting, like how it ties to my experience with religion, because Bo's brought up in the world. She's told this is the way her whole life. Whereas Din is a foundling. This saved his life. So it's like he's all in, and now you're watching her have this struggle, like, this was my way of life. Like I hated it, whatever you want to say for her. And now she's like the second coming. She's the Messiah. So it's just like that dichotomy, that like tension, internal turmoil of hers is just, I like it. It's so juicy to me.
Yeah, and in my head, I just hear Obi-Wan yell like, "You are the chosen one," which Obi-Wan was into her sister too. So that was like that was the whole thing in the Clone Wars where her sister Satine was like essentially Obi-Wan's Padme, but they just didn't go as far as Anakin and Padme had.
That we know of.
Yeah, that's true. Because I remember for a long time, my theory was that Rey was like Obi-Wan's granddaughter, but that was not the case. She was Sheev's granddaughter. So somehow he returned.
Right. He'll be back again.
Yeah, and I think that's a lot of like stuff that what they're doing between like this show and Bad Batch is kind of setting up, like, not like kind of laying path kind of behind the scenes wise almost of here's the track of where it could eventually go to, like just like different things we saw in here. So like in this episode, first we saw like Orin Shard comes back to Navarro in retaliation for the pirate Bane's expulsion from within the season premiere. So Grief Karga reaches out to Carson Teva, and in suspecting the attack is like a prelude to like a new rise of the Empire. So which right here I kind of thought like this is kind of, we're seeing kind of like these like little shadows of what could eventually form into like the First Order that we eventually see by the time of like Force Awakens. So, and especially with like the indifference that like he's getting from like to Meadows in this, which that was like a cool like guest star
didn't
thing,
expect that. But the whole thing with that scene was like, is he like, in my head I was like, he's not really evil, like he's just a government worker, and that's just, if you buy into the government work, that's just like it's black and white, there is no middle ground, and it's just he's just doing his job. Whereas Elia Kane, when she comes in, you're just like, you're evil, like we know you're evil.
Yeah, especially with, it's like seeing the few episodes ago with her and that whole story that we got with her. So it's interesting to kind of see what other motivations she still has going on here, and she's kind of doing a good job at playing like this kind of like two-faced, like duplicitous part. And you even see like Tiva like look at like her like rank that she has like on her uniform there, kind of seeing like, oh, who's this, like, and what's going on here with like this lady.
I thought that thing was complete, like I thought it was meant to be different for a reason other than her rank was different. I thought it was like an Empire pin for some reason. I could be wrong there.
The only other thing I can think of is that maybe it's related to that amnesty program that they're supposed to
No,
be in.
true.
That's the only thing I can think of there. But yeah, like so like when Tim Meadows, Colonel Tuttle shows a difference, that's when Tiva tracks down the Mandalorian covert and asks Din Djarin for help.
Yeah.
Which
Thanks, R5.
yeah, which I thought that was cool because I think I had brought this up, but they did those from a certain point of view books
You
in the
did.
past few years where R5 in those was like a member of like the Rebel Alliance at that point. So it's kind of cool that they're actually like making that more canon now in here as well. So I liked that. And I don't know if that was just like R5 like putting out like a beacon that entire time, or just because we've seen that kind of like R5's kind of like a scaredy cat a little bit from the Minds of Mandalore episode. Um,
Well, if you
or if
look
it's
back
just
at,
like a constantly a thing going on there.
maybe you haven't seen the episode yet. In Bad Batch, they are able to track a stolen ship through a droid on the ship. As long as they knew some code from the droid, they're able to track it.
Interesting.
I forgot what the code was called, but
Like a chain code?
they said something different, not chain. Maybe it said chain code. I don't remember exactly the phrasing, but that's how they found a ship that had their trackers disabled. Was there was a droid on the ship? They knew the droid's code. They put it in their search system. Oh, he's right there.
That's kind of like a Find My Droid app.
Yeah, an Apple AirTag in Star Wars.
Dude, where's your droid?
Yeah. You can't cross droids and Apple stuff. It's different operating systems.
That's what you're made to believe.
Yeah. So what did so and then this is kind of like where like Din has to convince the covert to come to Karga's aid, despite like the prior like confrontations with him. What did you guys think of? Like, did you think that Paz Vizsla here was going to? Because they had you at one point thinking that like he was gonna be like, nah, f this, we're not doing this, and then he kind of like turns it around there at the end. He's like, but they helped me save my son, so this is the way. Let's go save Navarro.
Yeah, I thought that was a really cool scene. I mean, like just to see them all gathered and kind of having like this council going on, and then like you said, a bit of the head fake that the kind of thing that actually us Lasso fans really enjoy, you know, in the writing, and kind of thinking that it's going to go one way and then giving you the different outcome. And to kind of see Din Djarin come here and really gain some of that respect as well, that has, you know, sort of lacking, or at least the trust, maybe not even respect, but maybe trust is a better word, that he's had to build since the first episode, even of the third season here. So I thought it was really cool. I really dig the all the Mandalorians coming together and to just like basically like have this council. It was a really nicely shot scene for sure.
My brain was like, they're gonna do it, and then he's like, I just like kind of tuned out for a second during the scene, and then I came back and seeing him being the one to convince everyone after Din's speech was like, oh, that is kind of cool because they did try to kill each other at one point. So.
Yeah, you almost forget like where like Grief Karga started in like the pilot of the show as compared to like where he is now, character
I still don't
development
trust
wise.
him. I still don't trust him.
Yeah, that's kind of me still with the armor. I'll get into that more like when we get to the end of the episode. But yeah, like from here too, I liked that like with this that because Din and Bo-Katan like helped save his son in that last episode, now that he's on their side, and Bo-Katan also like assumes command again of like the attack force because she she essentially is like the most tactical like of all these Mandalorians too, because she's done all this before too, like
right
between like heading up like various attacks, like she helped do that with like the Night Owls in the Clone Wars, and we saw her do that again in Rebels too, and then now we're kind of seeing her do that like in between like season 2 of Mandalorian and then now more in this season too. So it's been cool to see her character development here as well. And then like they all get to Navarro and then they have like this plan where like Din is basically gonna like bait the pirate ship with the N1 Naboo starfighter. And like I like the conversation he has with Grief there too, where he's like gives him like the odds to that, and he's like, I like those odds.
Right.
So it's kind of almost like a mirror of the like Han, like never tell me the odds there.
Yeah, don't ever tell me the odds. That's what I thought he was going to say. To be honest,
I'm almost surprised that he didn't, because it's like poetry, it rhymes.
There you go.
Yeah, but I liked this whole scene here. I like the design of the pirate ship in this too, because it kind of looks similar, I thought, to in like the Avengers movies. I don't remember if it was maybe it was Thanos' ship, or maybe it was Ronan the Accuser's ship, but it's kind of like laid out similarly, where it's like this like long ship that's kind of like looks like it's kind of like twisted almost. So I just liked the design of it, where it almost looks like this like battle like horn too, like the B wings, like the B wing was made into like a longer like Star Destroyer type ship. And then like just like the general design of like all the pirates in that, like how they are just like straight up like sea pirates, but like on a spaceship. So I just like the like the one like his first mate looking like Smee.
That's what I thought too. I was like, look, it's Smee.
Yeah.
The first time
and I don't remember
him.
I don't remember the like the alien species like name, but I know it's like the same kind, that
the one who's like, I have spoken.
Yeah, I've spoken. Yeah, so that's like all I could think of. I was like, oh, like I knew it wasn't the same guy, but it was like, so that's what he would look like if he dressed up in a costume as a pirate, like that.
My only issue with the pirates is Gorian Shard. I always think of Old Greg. If you guys remember Old Greg,
Yeah,
from the early days of YouTube. That's like, I don't know why. Just reminds me of him, and then Pizza the Hut.
Yeah.
there you go.
Gotta love Pizza the Hut.
What if Davy Jones but made of kelp? Yeah, and I don't know, I just like the character design overall for them. Like even
it's very.
like
I enjoy that they have such a vast amount of creatures, different species, and all that. It's not just like one band of aliens.
Yeah, and I think I don't remember where I'd heard the rumor, but apparently that these pirates are supposed to show up in the Skeleton Crew series as well.
Flies off, so
yeah. So I'm assuming at this point now that it's set before this, if they're all in that, because as Chris Tucker would say in the bloopers of Rush Hour 2, he ain't gonna be in Rush Hour 3.
Making a Rush Hour 4, supposedly, with Jackie Chan.
Chris Tucker's back.
He's out of jail.
Yeah,
wasn't he in jail for a little while? I thought he was.
I don't know the answer to that. I know, like I certainly know Wesley Snipes went to jail for tax evasion for a minute. But I don't know about Chris Tucker.
He got out with Moff Gideon. That's what happened there.
Oh no, he was just arrested for reckless driving. He never really went to prison.
There we go. That's just reckless driving.
Well, then there might be more, but
yeah.
That's the first few links out in a quick Google search. I also heard he kind of like went off the deep end, like hating everyone, being an ass. So they kind of might not have wanted to work with him. That's just rumors. I don't know if that's true.
Who's to say? But yeah, so like the Mandalorians like overcome the pirates. And then basically Vane, that it lives up to his name, and flees and he gets called a coward by Gorian as he's running off. So I'm sure that we'll see him again sometime, either in Mando or wherever else it may be. But I just liked how this whole sequence was shot, like as far as like
it was a good sequence.
Yeah, like the sequences, like with the different ships in the air there. Thought that was all like choreographed very well and like directed and edited.
Would you say what Din does in the N1 is an homage to the dog fighting in Top Gun, where he comes from underneath them and splits between them?
Sure, there's definitely probably influence from that. Maybe even if it's unintentional, there probably is.
That's like, I saw that and I was just like, oh, Top Gun. Like, that was my first thought.
Yeah, same. I mean, I think that's definitely the visuals provided there for you, right? Especially now that you mention it, like, that's bringing it back to me watching it last night and seeing that. Absolutely.
Because like, there's that, it's in the trailer, like, where is he? And then he flies out, and then they kind of did. Yep. I thought they said we lost him or something in this, and then he destroys one of them as he flies up from underneath.
Well, I like that part in there too, where he's like, he's behind you. He's in front of you. And it's like 2 seconds later. Although, like, with that Top Gun reference too, with the Maverick movie recently too, like, I felt like half of the story in that is essentially them setting up like the trench run of the Death Star, where they have to basically shoot this very small projectile into this very small area and then get out of there before it blows up while they're next to it. Just
in a cold environment.
Yeah. So,
well, that was the second movie. That was the first movie, not the second movie. Sorry. That was, and that wasn't Empire. It was just space cold. It wasn't winter cold.
Yeah.
In the trench run.
Yeah. But yeah, so like after all this, the Mandalorians are welcomed by Karga and the people, and are basically like that plot of land that Karga offered to Din back in the premiere. Din's like, you know what, I'll take that. Although
I forgot feel like they were on Navarro in the beginning.
They definitely depreciate in value, it feels like, though, because like that Navarro was like on the up and up, but now like half of it's like blasted all the crap. That really
that's
nice
when you
statue that they
low,
had.
sell high.
Yeah, that's true. So and that's what's kind of interesting here too, because of like after like the Mandalorians are like given this home there, that's what then kind of spurs on this next bit where like the armorer tells Bo-Katan that she wants to go talk with her, like off privately somewhere.
I was like, oh no, what's gonna happen? We didn't even talk about it. Oh no, I'll just go ahead. Go.
What?
My favorite part of the episode was someone finally got hit with a hammer.
Oh yeah,
my favorite part. It's been 3 series now where there's been a hammer shown and nothing done with it. And then finally the armor smacks someone with a hammer. Because it didn't happen in Obi-Wan, it didn't happen in Andor, and then it finally happened.
There you go. The smoking hammer. They showed it in Obi-Wan and finally used it in Mandalore.
That droid in Obi-Wan had it in his hand, and then he died a hero as a shield, but he never used his hammer. Like, come on.
It was a good smack though. Like this, I mean, they built up to it, right?
Yeah. There was 2 different uses of the hammer. It was you had to hold it so you could talk.
Yep.
It was like the talking stick. And then he's like, anybody else want to talk? I can give you the hammer. You want to talk? But yeah, Mike sent me a gift last night, and it was just of MC Hammer, and he's like, you'll understand it after you watch the episode. I was like, all right. And then after I watched, I was like, okay, now I get it. Hammer time. But yeah, I thought that scene was done really well. It shows how also well trained, I guess, the armorer is too, not just at,
has an armor.
Yeah, making armor, but also skilled in different ways with the hammer too. So
well, she always just kind of sidles up to people, it feels like.
Yeah, it's just like she's just like there,
Mm-hmm. I didn't even think she went on the trip. Then she was just there beating people.
Yeah, so like this scene with her and Bo-Katan I thought was interesting too. So like where she acknowledges that like the Mythosaur, like that Bo-Katan actually did see a Mythosaur. And the reappearance is kind of like an omen that Bo-Katan is the one who can reunite all Mandalorians. Um, and then like when she asks her to remove her helmet to symbolize that new position, I thought
There's a setup.
I thought she was like, yeah, like she was trying to like trick her in some way into doing something. I was like,
well, that Bo-Katan
like
did too. I mean, it took a beat before she actually did it, right?
I thought it was going to be like, fine, I'll do it. She will take hers off. Be like, I'm not lying. And
but yeah, and then we see Emily Swallows. But yeah, like yeah, I did think that like the armor would take hers off too, and then like we're like, oh, this is somebody that we already know who they were. Yeah. So that's kind of an interesting thing too, is just like she had to take her, like they're so adamant about them wearing the helmet, but if they want to kind of coalesce all the different sects of the Mandalorians into one, Bo has to remove her helmet in order to kind of be symbolic of that. So then it almost feels like if they do combine all of them, that shouldn't they then all then be able to remove the helmets as kind of another symbolization of all of them coming together as one kind of unit?
Yeah, you'd think.
Yeah, that
it feels like if
sense.
there is as steadfast to like the old ways, and like you can't take your helmet off, not even when you eat. Well, when you eat, but you have to go, you know, scurry off away from the fire.
Can't be seen
unless
either.
you're, yeah. Which I would have liked to seen an overhead shot of that, as they all kind of like dissipate off to like the different like corners of like the map there. To like, how far away do you have to? Because they're just like in a barren wasteland in that too. Like, how far away is okay?
You think they just like turn around and take their helmets off, eat, put them back on, and then turn back around. But
yeah, like one person's face this way, one person's face that way, so that you can't. Or you just bring a bunch of partitions with you, so you just like sit in like in your little privacy tent, and you can't see the person to your right. But this good.
I was just gonna say that you got this visual in my head of like all these like little like Mandalorian like ants trying to like get to different like areas of the you know, of the vast space that they're in, and then being like, hey man, you got to go over there, you know? Just like in their very stern voices as well.
The scene that comes to mind for me is from Harold and Kumar Go to White Castle.
Yes.
And he finds a bush, and then this guy just comes up. I'm peeing on the scene. He's like, really, guy?
I just want to make sure your listeners understand that we've referenced Dude, Where's Your Car and Harold and Kumar in this episode.
That's right. You never know what you're going to get with us. We were all over the map when Kenny and Aspen were on, so.
Yeah. That episode went off the rails super quickly.
With Kenny? No. Come on.
Yeah.
I mean, he had B. Arthur behind him the whole time, so.
That
out of the way.
But yeah, so I still do not trust the armor, and I'm gonna keep saying this theory every single episode until it's proven right, because so I know both of you haven't like really seen Clone Wars or Rebels, but in that there's like this whole kind of storyline with Maul taking over Mandalore at one point, and there's a group of Mandalorians in that followed him as kind of like their leader, and they were called Mandalorians, and they had these special like Mandalorian helmets that had like, they basically looked like Darth Maul's horns, but like on like a Mandalorian helmet. And like the only Mandalorians you ever see with like the helmet with like the horns on it like that are the ones that would follow him. And still on this show, the only Mandalorian that we've seen that has horns on their helmet is still the armor. I don't know if that's just like just a random kind of design choice to decide to do with it for that.
I highly doubt it's random. You know what I mean? Like it just seems like the way that they've designed so much of this and they put so many Easter eggs in. And I think what allows fans to really like enjoy this series because you've got people that are fans. I mean, it's much like, you know, with Favreau and Filoni, it's much like why people keep coming back to MCU films and why Feige's been successful. It's just like you're giving those little nods and that little bit of fan service, but also still keeping it like into the story. So I can't imagine it's just a random choice.
No, it's not.
So
I don't trust her either. So
yeah, it should be interesting to see what comes of that eventually too. But
I have a question that maybe one of you or both of you can answer. Why is the armorer held in such high regard by these people?
Isn't it like a religious sect? I mean, like it's just like
I just didn't know
the cleric, right? I mean, that's kind of what that's my read on it. But I mean, you all are the pros here.
I'm semi-pro.
What do you think, Mark?
You're Will Ferrell.
Yep. Jackie Moon.
There you go. Yeah, I would say that too, just probably because like what she does is like so symbolic of essentially like everything that they use and like from their armor. Like she creates like essentially what gives them their identity. It's just kind of like why she would be held in such high esteem, kind of as both almost like Greg said, it kind of as like a cleric, but also almost as like a like leader of, well, in this case like a cult leader, but
a little bit.
But yeah, I think that's mostly just why, just because of like her skill to make the armor that they all have to use and wear, everything from that. But like the next part, like from here too, is like when Bo-Katan comes out there and everybody sees her without the helmet on, and the armor explains what's gonna be happening there. Thought that shot was interesting. That like was all done really beautifully. And then I thought that's where the episode was gonna end. And then we kind of got like a post tag scene that wasn't like a post like credit scene. It just like happened right after this, before the concept art starts. Which I thought was interesting too. And I thought like something bad was gonna happen to our buddy there from Kim's Convenience, where he was.
That's what he was from. Okay, I knew I recognized him.
But he was on there checking out on his way back to Adelphi. Eva encounters like the wreckage of Moff Gideon's prison transport, which watching the episode it was really cool. But like thinking back on it now, was he specifically looking in that area for a ship? Because otherwise, space is big. Space is big, and the fact that like he would just randomly come across that feels weird too, unless that's the only thing. Just like thinking about it now is like, I guess you have to have the willing suspension of disbelief, but it is kind of weird that he would just like randomly come across
the only thing I can
ships, the one that he was kind of been looking for this entire episode.
The only thing I can say that might give credence to that is if you think of the way the oceans work, there's specific lanes everything's supposed to happen in
currents in space.
I guess. I mean, there's space whales, so
in Star Wars space, there's currents.
Yeah.
So,
but it's the only thing I can think of to justify how it might be random is he's in the lane you're supposed to be in instead of flying in the vast void. But
yeah,
it did seem a little planted, but I enjoyed that whole sequence. So
yeah, I liked this whole thing too, because I felt like we hadn't seen this before. If we had, I didn't remember it. Like the whole thing with like the probe coming off that little part of the astromech droid and like flying into the ship and then doing the scanning there. I thought that was really cool because you never saw R2 do that, or we haven't seen like any other kind of astromech droids similar to that do stuff like that. So I thought that was pretty neat.
Nope, you usually see ships explode and then nobody searches them ever again.
Yeah, but this was like you were saying, this is like a really spooky kind of shot, like scene too, because we see like basically the frozen resistance, well, not resistance, but like the New Republic officers on the ship, and like, because this entire time I just thought like something was gonna happen to him, and like as he was searching it, something was gonna like pop out.
I was waiting
Or
for the jump scare. I was
yeah, or
waiting.
like, yeah, like something was gonna happen here, but like the thing that happened was just that uh they see that it is Moff Gideon's ship, or prison transport ship, and that there's no sign of him in there, so he's not dead, at least not in there, and that what looks like happened was that there's a fragment of Beskar alloy, implying that
It was
Mandalorians have
planted.
broken Gideon out. Yeah, so that seems like, yeah, like you guys were thinking either that it's planted to kind of frame Mandalorians, and then if so, who would be trying to do that?
Cara Dune.
Um,
It was Cara Dune.
yeah, it could be.
It could be.
She's just trying to make the truth in a social way. But the only other thing that if it wasn't planted, I can think of is that it was Paz Vizsla that maybe just broke Moff Gideon out so that he could take them out, because they showed in like the previous on thing at the beginning of the episode, like this whole thing where like Paz Vizsla like really thought that like he should have been killed rather than being brought before a trial. So that's the only other thing I could think of, is that he would have wanted to essentially break him out so that they could commit like their own form of justice on him. And maybe like the armor was part of that too, and like maybe the whole sect was, and they have him like, I don't know, like stored somewhere that they're doing stuff to him, and we just haven't seen that yet.
Doing stuff to him.
Dipping him in Beskar. Yeah, but yeah, that's like the only two things I could think of there, is that like either yes, it was definitely Mandalorians and it was Paz Vizsla and armor and some others, or it was something that was planted, and then wondering who would have like had the motivation to plant that outside of Card. But what do you guys think? Do you think that of those two options, what would you think is like the higher probability of the two different things?
I'll defer to Chris. No, Craig.
Yeah,
sorry.
No, that's okay. I mean, I could see it being a bit of a head fake. I think that you know that tends to make a little bit more dramatic writing, but at the same time, I don't know. I never know where the series is going to go with it, you know. So yeah. I'm slipping over what I should do for a prediction.
I think it's a plant of some kind, and you're meant to think it's Paz Vizsla, so there's tension amongst the ranks and gets them all disbanded again.
Yeah, that could be. Yeah. So yeah, and so we only have the 3 episodes left of this season, so it should be interesting to see where this goes.
It might be the cliffhanger at the end is like the reveal of this, so it might not be.
Yeah, and like who it was. The armor takes off her helmet. It's actually Darth Maul. He just had a voice changer the entire time.
It's Moff Gideon the whole time.
Yeah. So as far as like the entire episode, I think that'll like be like the basic recap. But for like closing thoughts in this, I know for both of you, it probably wasn't as big of a deal just because you haven't watched Rebels. But in the scene where Tiva is going to like just trying to get like people to like get assistance or like talk to others. He's talking to this big dude, big purple dude who is Zeb from Star Wars Rebels, which is and they've confirmed like in the credits it was Zeb, and then like all the Star Wars social media accounts have like posted the screenshot today and then like hashtag Zeb in it. So if you didn't watch the episode yesterday, I guess it kind of sucks that you would have gotten spoiled by any of the multiple social media accounts at this point already. But he's also voiced by Stephen Bloom again, who did the voice on Star Wars Rebels too, so that's cool. And the thing I've always liked about Zeb too is that the like the character design of Zeb is based off of what Chewbacca and Wookiees initially were going to look like, off of like the initial Ralph McQuarrie concept art for the first Star Wars film, before Chewbacca looks like he does now. So I think that's cool how they like repurposed that kind of alien concept for a species into like another one on here. But Zeb's awesome on Rebels. It'll be cool to see, because like he was the only one that hadn't been like confirmed coming back in any way or shape or form, because they've cast the character Sabine, they've cast Ezra, they've cast Hera from that. Chopper's a droid, and he's already cast too.
He's already cast.
So I'm assuming a bunch of these are going to show up in the Ahsoka series too. So again, with Peter Ramsey directing this, and the CG character of Zeb in this looked great. I thought like it was outstanding, especially for I know these are like Disney Plus budgeted TV series, but still for like a TV series budget, I thought he looked awesome.
Well, I mean, let's talk about it. Like, I'm a huge Marvel fanboy, but the Star Wars series consistently have way better visual effects than the Marvel series. And I don't mean like, I know that they're using the volume and all of that, but like, still like the actual visual effects of, you know, of course they were lambasted for She-Hulk when it initially came out, and they went back and kind of fixed a little bit, but like the kind of character creature design as well is just really spot on. They've got some great production design, they've got great character design, and it's just, I guess it's because of maybe the way that the atmospheres look and the way that the scenes look in Star Wars. They just catch my eye more than, but anyway, just of the two, it's interesting because you know that Marvel is making money hands over fist. And I mean, granted, some of their last movies haven't been seen as much, but they're still making millions and millions of dollars. And it's like I think you get better visuals out of a Star Wars. Now, granted, also Star Wars tend to make a bit of money too, but still,
when they are out to public to pay for,
yes, exactly.
True.
No, I agree. It's and one thing that I've heard commentary on this show, not from us, from other guests, the lack of other creatures in other series has been noticeable, and it's probably because of budgetary things. So to see the full-fledged what they did in this with the pirates and then Zeb, they all looked real to me, except Gory and Shard. So
well, there's a certain threshold of suspension of disbelief when just his character design in general makes you like really have to suspend your disbelief just because he's like essentially made of seaweed. But I don't know. That was like my big like favorite moment from the episode, was just seeing Zeb, just because of being such a big fan of that show. I've already kind of talked about some of my other stuff that I had been wondering about, like do we think Paz killed Moff Gideon, and still think
maybe it was Boba Fett who killed Moff Gideon.
Shitty shiz. Yeah, that could be true. Maybe he'll show up in the season finale of this, like Din showed up in the Book of Boba Fett season finale.
Well, if they're trying to get them all to one place, does he not count? Oh, that's a weird concept to me in general, is Boba Fett, because we know who his dad is. Was he indoctrinated the same way his dad was? Well, or is it just like, oh, you're the same person because you're a clone, so it counts?
You have to ask Omega on the Bad Batch.
Yeah,
because she's technically just the female version of Boba Fett.
They're all Boba Fett. Oh, Jango Fett.
That's true. They're all Tamara Morrison / D. Bradley Baker. And then was there any things that stood out to you guys that we still haven't kind of highlighted at all at this point, outside of like Hammer Time and
whatnot? The droid from the first episode that they quickly were just like, oh, we don't need him, because they showed the statue missing in the shot.
Oh yeah.
They showed the Babu Fricks. Is it still going to come back in some way? Like,
yeah, like none of IG-11 is left. Now it's just like the rebar sticking out of
the stuff that was not part of him.
Yeah.
Yeah, because that was the whole reason Din went on this journey to start with, was I need to find this piece. And then they're just like, no, you don't. Here's R5, go away.
Yeah.
Yeah, that is kind of interesting. Like that they did the whole thing with the IG-11 and then just like quickly moved away from it.
It's like, is he coming back? And then there's something about the way the armorer talked about the forge that I'm like,
yeah.
that's important for some reason that I don't know yet. So I got to keep that in my mind.
Yeah, like with like part of like them saying that they had to like reclaim Mandalore was that there's like a whole bunch of the forge there like laid out.
Well, I'd assume, and I was thinking about this as we were talking about the armor. There's multiple armorers. They can't just have one for everything. But
yeah, when she was describing that too, the only thing I could think of was like the mine from Desolation of Smaug, from like the whole like scene there where like you see like all of like the molten like gold and everything. I'm just picturing like the Mandalore version of that for like the kiln there for where they're making all the armor for the Mandalorians.
Right.
So that's like the first visual that popped in my head. Was there anything that stood out to you, Craig, that we haven't talked about yet?
I just like kind of returned back to, I really enjoyed the this is maybe because I don't know as much of like the lore and I don't know as much of like the backstory as you guys do. And but I just loved seeing some Mandalorians go and just kick some butt. You know what I mean? Like that was a lot of fun.
Agreed, yeah.
Like, just seeing like these battle scenes that we get a little bit here and there, but to see them kind of all working together and then like all because we have built that up over the last several episodes and really over the series, but truly over season 3, where they're all going to be working together here, and I'm excited to see where that goes. But of course, if this isn't a head fake and the Mandalorians, there's a different sect out there that might be operating in bad faith, or if the armorer is operating in bad faith, then we'll see where it happens from there too. So I think there's a lot of interesting places this show could go for sure.
No, I'll echo that, because so far this season, the Mandalorians have seemed more inept when they're fighting. Not each other, but other things. Like they couldn't kill the turtle gator. They couldn't kill, like Din specifically tripped and fell in the bathing waters. He couldn't kill IG-11. It's just, then all of a sudden they get together and this battle sequence, like they're just rocking everybody. It was kind of brought back that swagger, yeah. So I enjoyed that sequence as well.
Definitely. So I think that'll wrap up us talking about episode 5, The Pirate. I'm definitely looking forward to next week episode, which is going to be directed by Bryce Dallas Howard. She's the past 2 seasons, the episodes that she's usually directed of those seasons have been like amazing episodes, and usually most people's favorite episodes of that season after. So I'm looking forward to seeing the Yaddle directed episode.
Maybe Yaddle returns, the Claimer's son.
Yeah, that'd be interesting. Yeah,
even though she was squished.
Freaking Count Dooku. And I still like, because of Tales of the Jedi now, that we know that Yoda just chose to talk that way, because
Yoda had a stroke.
Yaddle just sounds like Yaddle just sounds like Bryce Dallas Howard.
With a gravelly voice.
Yeah. But yeah, so that'll do it for this episode. You can leave us a review on the podcast catcher of your choice, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, whichever one, if it helps us. So the more you do it, the more it helps us out. You can find the show on social media at the handle of @HoldoPod on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, and YouTube. All that stuff is in our show notes, and then you can find Mike and I individually on Instagram and Twitter as well too. All the info is also in our show notes. And then Craig, where can they find you online?
Absolutely. So we'd love you to follow Peanut Butter and Biscuits, PBBFRN, and then also Beyond the Mouse. That's on Twitter, and then also on Twitter, Beyond Mouse. And then you can find me at Craig McFarland too on Twitter as well.
Nice. And I'll put all that information in the show notes as well.
Until
and
Elon
then you can
destroys
find
Twitter.
Yeah. Yes. And then you can find our editor Vactor on Instagram and Twitter as well. And then you can email us at holdopod@gmail.com. But as always, we are grateful to George Lucas for creating the Star Wars universe.
Oh dear, thank the maker.